Okay, you ready?
Nope, let's do it anyway.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Nerdy Psychologist Book Club.
Get ready to explore the magic and the mind games behind your favorite YA novels.
I'm Brandi Hawk, a trauma psychologist and proud book nerd.
And I'm Deanna Boys, a psychology expert and also proud book nerd.
Let's talk about our favorite heroes and villains, why they do what they do, and what that means for us. Welcome to the club. Today, we're so excited to be joined by our friend Brandi Liles.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Brandi Liles. I'm a licensed psychologist, an occasional guest of the Nerdy Psychologist Book Club.
Welcome.
So, as a reminder, our podcast follows one book per month. This month, we are reading Heir by Sabaa Tahir. Every week, we'll have an episode that discusses a new character or concept. And then in the new month, we're going to start a new book. And quick reminder, I am a psychologist, but this is not therapy. This is book club.
I mean, it is a little bit like my therapy session.
I mean, it's kind of Deanna's therapy, but it's not your therapy.
No. Yeah.
So
Deanna,
Deanna,
therapist.
tell us about the book.
Okay, so we are reading Heir by Sabaa Tahir, and it is in the Ember and the Ashes universe. So if you've read anything from her series before, this should feel very familiar. It is fantasy, it is dystopian, it's magic. It follows three characters, Heir, Sirsha, and Quill. An orphan, an outcast, a prince, and a killer who will bring the empire to its knees. It is a wild ride. And it's a fun read if you can follow the narrative. It goes through three interweaving narratives that are very complex. There's lots of characters. I highly recommend if you are an audiobook reader to get the actual book.
Another podcast who was reviewing this book said the same thing, that the audio was too difficult.
So the audio is so good because they have different characters saying it, which, by the way, really made me hate Aiz even more.
She's just horrible.
She's horrible, which we're getting right into it. But anyway, but it is hard to follow. And it's just like any other fantasy book where you're like, wait, what character was that? Who was that? So very good. Very rich world, very rich characters. You're going to love it. There's a little bit of spice.
Love the spice.
Little mini spice. But at book club, the first thing that we do is get our drinks.
My primary reason for attending book club.
Yes.
Although I did read half of this book, and I was telling the ladies before we started that I'm kind of bummed I'm going to get some spoilers today.
You're going to get
You're going to get all the spoilers.
I'm definitely going to finish reading it. I'm very much enjoying this book and the characters and the character development.
Yeah.
So.
You'll
really
continue to love it even though you have the spoilers. I read it 3 times in preparation for our podcast, and I loved it every single time that I read it.
Yeah, it's really good. And because we love Sirsha, this drink is called the Blood Oath.
Oh, dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So it's a fun, it's a lot. It's boozy, y'all. It's just like a blood oath. There's a lot of complicated things in this. The recipes are on Patreon. Let's do it. Let's get into it.
Cheers.
Uh-oh. It is.
Ooh.
That's going to sneak up on me later.
Yum.
Oh my goodness. My blood oath is saying do nothing but drink that.
I know, right? But yeah, so we talked a little bit about, we already started talking about like whether or not you liked it. So did you like the book?
Yes, I'm loving the book. So for our viewers, if you haven't listened to us before, I'm typically YA dystopian novels is not really my chosen genre, and have agreed to read this genre for these ladies and to give some of my opinion related to it. So I enjoyed this book, honestly, more than I expected to. And I think it's because of the character development and the rich personalities that are coming out in the three characters.
They jump off the page really fast.
Yeah. And so I attached to all of them, even though I actually had a little bit, which I know I'm not through yet. No, there's many other things that happen with Aiz, but when y'all were calling her horrible, I actually had a little bit of a reaction. We're
not here to invalidate that.
We're going to talk about validation and invalidation today too, even when we don't agree with people's behaviors or their responses to situations. And so there's a part of me that felt a little defensive for her. And I also know there are many things that you all have read that I have not gotten to
That
yet.
is because you have not yet gotten to the part in the book where this spirit called Mother Div says, it's okay, Aiz. In order to give you power, I just need to eat the hearts out of the children. And
She
Aiz
basically says,
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But
so
however,
interesting because
I have
like,
a lot of
that's-
empathy for her too. I did not have empathy
No.
for her, and then we had a discussion, and
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'll give her a little bit.
After our last discussion, your hatred of her became like understanding, but still dislike.
Yeah,
So
just like
good.
it's just like now.
That's so interesting to me, though. I know we're not even talking about Aiz today, but because of her original values and sort of like how she got started on the journey was about the orphans and
Right?
the orphans burning and things like that. So
That is exactly what we talked
Yeah.
about last time about how her belief persisted despite new information
Yeah.
coming to her.
Yeah.
yeah, interesting.
So today, can we talk about our favorite character?
Yes.
Obviously, it's Sirsha.
It's
Yeah.
all of ours.
Loved her immediately. So spicy, spunky, survival. Yeah.
Yeah,
But also, like,
funny.
she's coming at you pretty rough, right?
Mhm.
Like, I think we all like her roughness, but I want to talk about why she has that roughness, sort of where it comes from. And my thoughts behind that are it stems from invalidation.
Yeah.
Right. So Sirsha is part of the Jaduna clan, right? So her people are magic. She's coming from one of like the biggest, best families of the Jaduna. And she,
Quote unquote best.
well, most
Right.
powerful,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
She is supposed to be the heir, right? We talked about that last time. And then something happens that, no spoiler, we actually never find out. Hopefully
Oh,
in the next book, we're going to
interesting.
find
Okay.
I
out.
literally was searching the book going, what did I miss?
Yeah.
We don't know what it
is
was.
it?
She did something that resulted in the deaths of thousands of people. And then she was sent away from her family and
Yeah.
banished. And so that's where we find her, is after she's been banished. So I think that banishment, but also a lot of what she dealt with before then, has a big impact on her personality and who she is.
Yeah. I am just to the part where she meets up with her sister.
Ugh,
It's
Swana.
Her older sister, Roswana, and just their and kind of some of the stories coming out about their different personalities as well. And that made me think about invalidation. And, you know, in real life, when you have two children who have very different personalities and show up differently, both from a biological standpoint, but also from a sensitivity standpoint, you know, like when we are working with our clients, we talk about how do you parent this kid?
Mhm.
And
so many parents think you parent them all the same.
Yeah.
And you're a different parent for each kid.
Yeah. And how do you validate the two different personalities in the situation that you're in? And so I imagined that Sirsha, because her older sister, I think she has some other siblings too, right? Her older sister is just so different than her that in that environment of being raised, there was probably a lot of like minor, like smaller, what would be considered smaller invalidations as she was growing up
Mm.
before whatever this big thing happened that led to the full rejection.
Yeah, that's a great point. And there's some things up around that. Okay, so thinking about her sister, I'm not sure if you got here yet, but on page 186, we have Itswana coming and being horrible,
Yeah.
right?
Worst.
She says, everything out of your bitch mouth is poison. So
This is right
cool.
after they got off the boat and
Yes.
the sister finds her in the town. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And Sirsha, so it says Sirsha took a step back, face hot, as if Ritswana had slapped her. She'd almost forgotten the unpleasantly specific sting of an insult from an older sibling,
Mm.
particularly one you used to worship.
Oh.
Siblings.
Yeah. It's hard too, because like you like as an older sibling, you are like, I'm my own person also, and like go away. little one either way. So like as an older sibling, sometimes you're just like, you're an individual and I'm an individual, but this is mean.
Yeah. I mean, as a baby sibling, right? I love my older sisters very, very much. But I definitely felt like I was not wanted, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I worshiped there. I was like, oh my gosh, I just wish that they wanted to hang out with me and do things with me. But I was 4 or 7 years younger. And so wasn't wanted.
No,
But they
not
were,
allowed.
even in their worst moments, they were not
No.
as mean as Ritswana.
Yeah.
It's interesting she still worshipped her even though she was so mean to her.
Yeah.
Well, again, if we go back to parent-child too, though, right? This comes up all of the time. It's like it doesn't matter how mean or abusive or punishing your parents are. You still idealize them. You still want to please them.
That's
you still
true.
want to do things that are going to make them happy. And what happens though, and we can talk more about like what the actual definitions of validation and invalidation are, but what happens is then we start to ignore our own internal experiences because of that invalidation, right? So when we're thinking about the definition of validation, just like the dictionary definition is kind of different than how we think about it in the psychological world, right? So in the definition, like in Webster's dictionary, right, is to check or prove the validation or accuracy of something. That's
Stats
to
class
validate,
101.
right? So like looking,
Mathematically validate
yeah,
something.
yeah. Like looking at the facts and saying, okay, this fact is accurate. In the psychological world, we talk so much about validation related to internal experiences. So thoughts and emotions and how those thoughts and emotions then lead to certain behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk a lot about behavior can sometimes be effective, meaning it gets us what we are trying to get out of that behavior, or ineffective. Okay. And when we think about validation, we're talking about how do we help the person or ourselves make sense of the thoughts, the emotions, the behaviors that we're having, given the context that we're in, the history that we have, and just our own sort of biology, personality, values, those type of things, right? And that this thing that we're experiencing, this emotion, this thought, this behavior that we're experiencing does make sense given all of those contexts, even if someone else wouldn't have that behavior or doesn't really agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
So are you suggesting that when Sirsha was little and she liked to take bubble baths and have nice things, and her sister came to her and told her that she was weak and lazy and going to ruin her life because of these things, that was potentially invalidating?
That would be invalidating.
Such a specific good example.
I know we're talking about Sirsha too, but it actually came up for me when I was thinking about Quill. And what's Quill's best friend's name? Sufjan.
He's my other favorite.
He just has the sweetest spirit. When he had his first kill, when he had to kill the person in the city right after they got off the boat, Quill actually had some validation because of something he experienced. And so like when his first kill happened, he just had all of these intense emotions, but because of the environment, the society, the culture can also be invalidating.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, this is just what we do in order to stay in power or to get this or to win that or whatever. But it's ignoring those internal experiences of, oh my God, I just killed somebody and that's not really who I am or who I want to be. And then it happens to his best friend. I think his aunt ended up validating some of his experience. And then he was able to pass that validation on to his friend when he had his first murder. Good example.
Oh, you're so nice helping your friend really get through his first murder.
I know, I just like thought about that.
I mean, this is a dystopian novel, so again, like we're like, oh, that's
like, and you're
really
just
disturbing.
so kind and sweet about it too. And I'm like, yeah, definitely, I
This
agree.
really disturbing shit is so sweet, but it was right because he showed up in a way that he had gotten to experience from his aunt Helene about, hey, this is going to sit with you and you do have to talk about it. And it's okay that you're having all of these experiences and these experiences make sense because of this really traumatic situation you've been through.
So to take that, like, it's okay that you murdered someone, at least your feelings about murdering someone are okay. a step further and back to Sirsha. So she does something that results in all these people being dead, right?
Yeah.
And then rather than coming alongside her and her parents and community being like, oh my goodness, this is terrible, but let's help you process and get back to who you are. They say, bye.
Yeah.
You can't be here
You're
anymore.
banished.
And then she goes to her friend Lolly Timber, which have you met Lolly? I don't think
so. Not yet.
That's pure.
That name does not sound familiar.
Okay. Well, I'm finding where I'm going. Will you recount the so sad story of Lolly Timber?
Oh, that's a great question because you just reminded me that I don't remember it. Was this in 17 or 18? I feel like I fell asleep a few times.
So Sirsha and Quill and Sufyan and Aurelia are trying to go where they're going. And Sirsha says, we need to stop and see my friend Lolly, who can help. She knows about the Kagari.
Okay,
she protected me. I love her. Let's go see her. And so they go see her, and very sad things happen. Lolly's very wonderful to them, but she also is like, why are you here? You shouldn't have come. I told you never to come back here, because she knew that if Sirsha came back, something horrible would happen. And then
it did.
It does. Yeah. Lolly's killed by the entity otherwise known as Mother Div.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, this is ringing a bell now. I may have blocked it out. We talked about how I blocked stuff out.
I mean, it was not a nice part of the book.
No, I blocked that out.
So while they're there, Quill uses his magic, which I'm really excited to talk about as well. His magic lets him see people's memories.
Right. And he's been trying to suppress it because it's disturbing to him.
It's disturbing to him. But he uses it and touches Sirsha, and he sees the memory of when she came to Lolly immediately after being banished. And she sees that, or he sees, this is page 282.
Okay, I thought so.
So Lolly says, you're a child. It is not your fault. I should have listened to the Ronnie, Sirsha mumbled. And Quill wondered if she meant her mother. Probably yes. I deserve it. What's happened? Let me suffer. Let me feel the pain, Lolly Temba. I deserve it. So very different than how Quill supported Sufyan, her family.
Rejected her fully.
Yeah, obviously you're the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she internalized that message. Like, I do deserve it. I'm terrible. I will always be alone.
And then again, going back to validation it does not mean you agree with the behavior. It doesn't mean that the behavior is right, that it was the most effective behavior to have in that situation. But the internal experiences are something to validate. So why you did that behavior was probably valid. It's really tricky if we don't ever find out. I'm kind of bummed to know that we never find out about it.
Well, no,
we don't know yet.
We will in the next one of the future books, I'm sure.
Got you. Okay. Yeah, because what she did and what the consequences of what she does, it doesn't make it right. You can still validate the internal experiences, the emotions, that shame that she's having. That might be valid shame, but rejecting someone because of that internal experience, right?
Like, things can make sense
painful
for the situation. And like, if I were in your shoes, I probably would do something similar.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make it okay.
It doesn't make it okay.
So validating doesn't mean that what you did is okay.
Right.
It means that how you feel is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that feeling, right, makes sense given your history, right? Your biology, who you are as a person, what your values are, and what the context of the situation was.
Your awful sister.
Yeah. Your family. Kicking you out. Saying you're nothing. Saying that you can't even. Okay. Saying that you can't even have your name.
Oh.
Right?
Talk about that.
Yes. Okay. So this is throughout the book, but I really liked the quote on page 444. So I'm going to do my best because glottal stops are not in the English language or the French language, which are the only two languages I know. So I'm not super good at the glottal stop.
Okay.
So he turned to her, and the sound of her name on his lips echoed through her veins as if spoken by thunder instead of a man. Since she was a little girl, she'd always been Sirsha. That pause from deep in the throat, it was the highest honor of this world, for it meant she was a Jaduna, one of the first users of magic. Her line was long, her ancestors titans of their time. When she lost that pause, when she became Sirsha instead of Irsha, it felt as if she'd been shoved out of her own body and into another one she cared nothing for.
Okay, but can I also add, but from Krill's mouth, her name felt beautiful again.
I'm assuming that they like fall in love. I'm getting that. I'm getting that vibe. I'm getting that vibe.
Yes, absolutely. They for sure fall in love.
Yeah. I think this is such an incredible example of how powerful validation can be of connecting you back to your own identity. And again, if we remove from the book and go to real life, what she's talking about is invalidation of her identity of who she is. And this comes up all of the time. If you think about some of the kids that we work with that identify as LGBTQIA+, and their identity, who they are, is being rejected by their families, that invalidation can be so
damaging.
painful and so damaging.
And like dead naming and like not accepting them for who they're deciding to be now.
Yeah.
And who they always were.
Yeah.
Who they're allowing you to now see as who they always were.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Like it's important to be able to have what they think about psychological health, right? Is like if you are curious, open, aware, and engaged. Okay. This comes from a therapeutic protocol called acceptance and commitment therapy. But basically, they've done a ton of research, both psychological and ancestral and religious and spiritual and all of those things. And it kind of comes down to those things. Are you aware, right? Are you engaged in your life, in your values, and those type of things? And so with that psychological health, it does also look at validating both sides. So looking at Sirsha's family and trying to validate, even though we don't agree with their rejection, trying to validate what they're trying to manage as well. And that some of their feelings and emotions and thoughts make sense given what they've experienced, what their history is, what their biology is.
That's true.
And if we can hold both of those sides of the coin, that's when like judgment, criticism, anger outbursts, like all of those things that kind of look at like make us psychologically less healthy kind of start to go down because we can look at both sides of the situation, which I think is what my initial reaction to
you immediately you're like,
where I was like, oh, but I mean, her behaviors are horrible, right? I'm assuming I'm going to come across so many other behaviors that are very disconnected from my values. And it still comes from something, even if we don't agree with it.
Yeah, I've talked to you. I often ask you, like, have you had to deal with this in real life with parents and like trying to like, okay, I have to see where they're coming from and try to validate what they're coming from and then help them move past it. And it's hard.
It's hard, but I think it's so rewarding. We talked about this last time, working with parents and helping them learn to validate their kids and then helping kids learn what it feels like to be validated.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a beautiful thing about being a psychologist.
Yeah. And just a real life human. And it's hard actually to experience validation when all you've ever felt is invalidation.
Yeah.
And it can be aversive and you can feel like you are talking down to me, you're condescending. I've definitely had friends be upset with me for validating their feelings and think that I'm being fake or think that I'm not being real.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm actually being the most real I can with you right now. I'm accepting you for who you are.
Yeah.
I don't have to agree with everything you're doing. I'm not doing what you're going to do, but what you experience is valid. And what you're doing is what you said to me. Yeah. That's valid. That's understandable. Yeah. And now you have to do something different.
Well, so that's a great point too, is like, if we're thinking about behavioral change and we're wanting people or ourselves to change our behavior, usually validation is the first step of that. We have to say, okay, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, makes sense. I understand what you're trying to do, but your behavior isn't effective in this context. But if you can validate what happened, like what is going on internally for them, then they're more likely to have effective behavior.
Something that I think is interesting is that despite all that happened and kind of going along with that, seeing the other side, right? Stirsha still misses her family.
Yeah.
Right. She has that vision of her mom, and she's like, I miss you, Mom.
Sad.
She still wants her sister to love her, even this long away. She feels pride in being a Jejuna, right? All of these things. So is that common, right? Like when you get invalidated, does it make sense to still feel pride and still want to be with those people?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Again, we want to be like, just from an evolutionary perspective, I think we talked about it in the last book too, of like, we belong in a collective and in a community. So even if our community is not accepting us, there's still a desire to want to be loved and accepted by that community, by our collective.
I think that's so hard, like in real life for people whose families reject them, right? We talked about LGBTQIA folks, but also there's all sorts of reasons.
I don't agree with same spiritual beliefs or the same cultural beliefs or just
getting kicked out of a cult is a whole thing.
Yeah. Say that again.
Political beliefs.
Beliefs.
That's
right? Like
very prescient.
there's so many things that we disconnect from our families over, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we dislike our families or don't wish that we had better relationships with them.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
True.
Okay. Can we talk about our other favorite person, which is Quill, and how, I'm going to throw this
Might
out
not be
there.
your favorite yet, but
He will be. So I'm going to throw this theory out there, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. So I started to tell Deanna about this last time. So Quill's Aunt Helene in the Ember and the Ashes series, she's one of the main characters. And in the Marshall Empire, you're not allowed to have magic, right? If you have magic powers, they're going to kill you, basically.
Okay.
And so Helene has magic. And so one of the storylines is how she has to like deal with the fact that she is an enforcer in the Marshall Empire, but she has magic, and her magic is healing magic. So it's really beautiful. She sings, and her song heals people's physical wounds. It's really, really beautiful. So here's my thought to discuss. I think that Quill's power to read people's memories is also a healing power. Because I think that Sirsha, I didn't tell you this. Yeah. As I think that Sirsha is holding those memories back and keeping them inside of her. And his magic says, no, I can see it and still love you.
Okay. This is so interesting because if we think about, and I want to go through these more in detail about the 6 levels of validation. I think it's level 3 that it's like we have to read a person's behaviors and make hypotheses about what they might be experiencing so that you can validate it. But he has a shortcut. He can just touch you and know what you're experiencing and then can use that information to validate what you're thinking or feeling.
Yeah. So do you think it's a healing power?
I love this theory. I didn't even think about that because, like I said, I wasn't a big fan of Helene. I was like, go away. Tell me more about Quill and Sirsha.
You were invalidating her.
I clearly want more romance. Not in life, just in the book. I like that theory. I will ponder that when the next book comes out. Sabaa Tahir.
Are you listening? Validate, like if he's using that information to then validate someone's experience, like validation can be so healing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it can just be so healing to be seen and heard for like who you are and what you've experienced. And even if you did act in a way that caused harm, right? Like having that validation of like, it makes sense that now you're feeling shame related to this. And that's because of who you are can be so healing, right? And again, it can shift to behavioral change. We think about society as a greater whole. If we are able to validate each other's experiences, that's going to lead to more of the behavioral change that we're wanting of people to not harm others so indiscriminately.
Or themselves.
Yeah.
Is that part of sort of everyone's problem throughout the book, though? Like, there's so much secrecy, I think, in the book.
Yeah.
And is that secrecy fear of being invalidated? And then once they finally tell their secrets, everyone's like, I don't care. And then we're fine.
That's such a good point.
Well, I mean, like, just what you said about the culture of like, oh, this is a part of me, like my magic is a part of me, but I have to hide that because it's against the rules. Again, who made that rule? Why? What context? But now it's like happened over time, or that's just a rule that the Marshall Empire can't have magic. So you have to completely ignore this part of you, right? And this like pretty incredible part of you. Yeah.
And beautiful part that you only see as problematic because you're not allowed to explore its beauty.
Right. And so like, yeah, secrecy and shame, I think go hand in hand. And then invalidation can also like really increase unjustified shame. Right. So we do something that's harming our community, like Sirsha's behavior that we don't know. Right. Like she does have some justified shame.
I have a theory that she wasn't the one, that she took the fall for somebody else.
I mean, I have a theory that she was certainly involved, but that it wasn't her idea to start with.
Yeah.
She was like something happened. She thought that she was doing something good.
That just made me have a future thought of we could talk about the unforeseeable, like having some responsibility in the thing versus like I intended the outcome. It's like a psychological
That is a
concept we
big
talk about
deal.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like intention versus harm. And
Yeah.
And we just don't know that about what Sirsha
we don't know,
did.
but my theory is that I guess she is kind of acting like someone that did something like wrong.
I mean, she did something wrong enough that her entire community kicked her out.
Yeah.
And her mom didn't stick up for her.
Right.
That's true.
And then just like accept the failure.
Yeah.
So like failure and validation is something that's so huge. It's so huge in our like westernized individualistic society as well. When it's like we are focused, which I'm wondering if this kind of happened with IEs too. We're so focused on power and control and achievement and mastery. I mean, failure is just, I tell my clients this all of the time. If they're listening, they're going to laugh about this. Failure is just, I didn't meet the expected goal in this specific time. That's what failure means. But failure has so much like shame attached to it.
Especially in our individualistic culture.
Yes. And then when you fail, it's like, oh, you weren't motivated enough. You didn't try hard enough. You didn't put enough effort. And there's all of this invalidation around the failure.
Yeah, it's completely invalidating when you fail.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. When it's just, again, failure is just, I just didn't meet the goals at this specified time. And you can think about like when we think about failure as the actual definition, you didn't meet the goals at the time. Of course, you're feeling sad.
Yeah.
But you also might feel hungry, right? Hungry to meet that goal. Shame doesn't make us hungry. Shame makes us angry,
Sad,
paralyzed. Shame paralyzes us a lot. And so thinking about that too, about how invalidation around failure really keeps us stuck and doesn't keep us like learning and growing and changing.
Yeah.
You mentioned the 6.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Did you want to talk any more
Sure.
about that? Because I'm like, wait, I don't think I knew that
You only
there
said
was
one.
6.
You only said
I've
one
only
of the
said one
six.
of them. Okay, so this comes from Marsha Linehan in Dialectical Behavioral Therapy, and she has created a treatment protocol and theory around treating individuals who have borderline personality disorder, which like extreme emotional dysregulation, behavioral dysregulation, lack of sense of identity, things like that. And even though this is an extreme version of some of these things, we all also have all of these behaviors. These things live on a spectrum, right? And we all have some of this. And so she talks about like, what are the 6 levels of validation that we can do to help people kind of recover from chronic invalidation, which is one of her theories of why people with BPD have such extreme erratic behaviors.
So these are 2 do's.
These are 2 do's.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, these are 2 do's. Okay, so the first one is just being present. So just showing up and being with someone.
Like Quill.
Like Quill, who just shows up over and over.
Or what we probably wished Sirsha's mom could have done when this like very tragic thing happened, of just being able to show up and just being like, I am here. I am present with you in this pain.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what Lolly did too.
Oh, Lolly did too, even though Lolly was like, go.
Well, she was like, go, because she knew she was going to die if Sirsha came back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
Self-preservation.
Yeah. So just being present is the first level. The second level of validation is reflecting someone's experience. So this won't be surprising to you all who are trained in parenting interventions, of when somebody says something, you can literally just parrot back what they're saying. So I was on vacation with some family friends this last week, and their 2 kids were fighting over elevator buttons. Who gets to push the elevator buttons?
It's very important.
Right?
Yes,
It's
very important.
intense conflict when you're working with kids, and so she's like, their youngest was like, I just wanted to push the elevator button, and so we want to jump to be like, you'll to problem solving. You'll be able to push the next one, or push this button, right? We're jumping to problem solving. But the validation is like, oh, you're sad about not being able to push the elevator button.
Yeah.
It's just literally reflecting what she was experiencing internally.
You wanted to push the elevator
Yeah,
button.
you wanted to push the elevator button,
Yeah.
or you're sad you didn't get to do it. Okay, so that's level 2. Level 3 is the one I was talking about that Quill doesn't have to use because he has magic powers. But in the real world, we can't know what someone is experiencing internally, and they may not tell us for lots of various reasons. And so level 3 of validation is being able to read a person's behavior and try to hypothesize about what they might be thinking or feeling and validate those things.
I think Quill does do that. Like, even before he at
uses
Lolly's
his
house,
magic,
when he uses his magic, like way before, he's saying, like, I see something in her eyes. Like, there's something there. She doesn't believe these good things about herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to get too in the weeds about like real life, but this is a really hard thing for people to do just in general who don't have a high emotional intelligence or, perception. Skills to pay attention to people's body language, vocal cues, and sometimes you might be feeling your own vocal cues that skew how you interpret somebody else's.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That can definitely happen. It's happened to me.
Everyone, I think.
Yeah.
This is where we sometimes talk about the I wonder skill. Like, oh, I wonder if you're experiencing XYZ. Because I wonder, it makes it curious. It's not saying like, oh, you're feeling mad, because that can actually be invalidation
That's
too.
invalidating all the time.
Right? I'm an angry crier. And so if I'm angry and I'm crying, they're like, oh, you're feeling sad about this. Like, no, I'm actually not feeling sad. I'm feeling angry.
I will stab you
And-
in your sleep.
so that can be
or anything.
it can be invalidation if we're too heavy-handed on our hypothesis that we know what the other person is experiencing. But the I wonder skills, like, oh, I wonder if this might be going on. Okay, level 4 is understanding a person's history and biology and how that's going to influence their thoughts, their experiences, their behaviors. So, when the crew first got together on the boat.
Literally, I love them.
Yeah.
Immediately.
And Sirsha was very, both sides, right? Or the 3 marshals were very skeptical of Sirsha and very protective of themselves. And Sirsha was very protective of herself. And I'm not going to trust these individuals, which again, very valid.
Right.
It makes sense based on her history and her biology and what she has previously experienced, that she's not going to just let people get close to her.
And their active situation of running from a Kagari invasion and people are trying to kill them actually in this
Also,
moment.
they chained her up.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
Which what you're saying kind of gets to the level 5, which is normalizing a person's reaction based on the context. So that's just about what anyone else would do in that situation.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm being chased by a bunch of people who want to kill me. I'm not going to trust you when you say, I'm here to help you.
Trust me.
Yeah.
No.
This is not an Aladdin situation. I'm not getting on that carpet.
But even as the team, the group starts to show more trustworthy behaviors, there's still kind of that wall up.
Yeah.
Which again, level 4 makes sense based on Sirsha's previous experiences, that she is going to be less likely to jump towards trust or community or collective because she was completely kicked out and rejected from her community.
So she's always going to be alone, and I should just push other people away before they hurt me.
Yeah, so that she doesn't have to experience that intense amount of pain.
Which is literally the entire dang book.
Yeah. No. I don't like him. I just really want to have sex with him right now.
Okay, so before let me just say level 6. I want to come back to that. So level 6, if I had to pick a favorite, is probably my own personal favorite. And we've talked about this just as friends before too, is just radical genuineness.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to be radically genuine in this situation to be able to show up as my true authentic self, seeing your true authentic self. And like that, right? Like that is a real beautiful connection of validation that you can have. I train therapists and psychologists for a living, like new psychologists that are just sort of getting into the work. And this is a little bit harder to train, especially because if you think about, again, achievement and mastery and how do I say it and what do I do and what are the skills that I need, some of the skill is just being you in the room with your clients and being able to show up in a truly authentic, genuine way.
Is hard. And I have found, so like a lot of, I don't know if it's a lot, but I have my experience with people who, especially as they're new in their career, and as they're learning, and you as a professor knows this too, is like a lot of what the old guard taught was you do not share anything about yourself.
Be a blank slate.
You are a blank slate. And that is just not what works a lot of the time. And I often, I'm looking a little bit for the diamond in the rough because I'm trying to hire someone who can be in this space and be real with people, because people, the people we're working with will smell it out and be like, no, you're fake. I don't want you.
Yeah.
So it is hard. It's, as you know, like you're talking about, like training other people to do this. You have to go through so much programming.
You have to you have to kind of
deprogram
them.
And remind them that they should just be a person.
Yeah, you're a person first.
If your client says something funny, you should probably laugh.
Like, otherwise that's creepy.
Right? Like you should laugh. And if your client says, "Oh, are you married?" because they see a ring on your finger, say yes.
Yeah. It's okay.
Or no. Or like whatever the answer is. Right? Like whatever the answer is. Don't go into the complication.
Why do you want to know? Why do you want to know this about me?
That's the thing.
That's what I was taught to do.
Yeah.
So I'm so interested in why you want to know if I have children. Like,
how combative is that? That's mean.
If you go back to the roots of misogyny and sort of some of like the white supremacy in psychology too, like you can see where some of that is like, oh, I'm shifting off of me. But yeah, we need to dismantle some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, back to some of the consequences of invalidation. You mentioned it when Sirsha was like, she's attracted to this person. This person is showing up in a really like safe, trustworthy way. And she's like, no, I don't like them. I don't like them. When we have chronic invalidation from our family, from our environment, from our culture, we start to not listen to our internal experiences. We start to self-invalidate. Mm-hmm. And so when we've had this chronic invalidation, we start to ignore our own internal experiences. And so then we can't use our internal experiences to guide like our decision-making and our problem solving and things like that. So that obviously can become very problematic when we're just ignoring our own selves. And then you start looking only to external people for what you're experiencing internally. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine how that can get very, problematic too.
Especially if they already were invalidating.
Yeah. Okay, last thing I would love to share with our audience is just some ways to cope with invalidating environments. Okay. So the first thing is, if the invalidation is about your identity, find a community that will accept you.
Yeah.
For who you
that
are,
makes sense.
Right? Find some validation.
Find your Quill and Sufjan and Aurelia.
Exactly.
Find your peeps.
Find your peeps. Find your peeps. And it doesn't mean you're not going to have to cope with the pain of it not being your family, or, you know, Sirsha's going to have to cope with the fact that her family has rejected her. Right?
But it is helpful to find a community who has experienced something you've experienced. That's why support groups are such a big deal.
Yeah.
And just like, you know, I don't know if you and I want, this isn't like invalidation, but like having a little club, little mini club, like.
Yeah. Or like our Dead Parents Club.
Yeah.
We can maybe talk more about this in the grief episode.
Yeah, we should
too.
Yeah.
Okay. The second one is being compassionate towards yourself and basically learning the skills to self-validate. So when your external community, your environment can't validate you, to validate yourself. So of course I'm feeling shame because XYZ. Oh, I wonder if I showed up this way because of my history and my biology and the things that I've experienced.
Being curious.
Yeah.
When Sirsha's able to say, I want to do this, but that's my old self. What I really want is to help these people.
Work on just avoiding judgments altogether. So like judging yourself and others. So negative judgments, self and other judgments are more influential in how we treat people, how we show up for ourselves, those type of things. But it's actually effective practice to also notice when we're having good judgments. So if you think about like, oh, you passed this test, you did such an amazing job, you studied so hard,
Catching yourself be good.
Right? Like, again, that's like overly focused on what we did to succeed. But then when we fail, even if we did all of those things and we fail, right? Like that can be painful to be like, but I did all of these things and I still failed. But we're getting so much praise and validation for the things we did do when things go right.
So are you suggesting that parents should not praise their children? Because I'm sorry, that's what I heard.
Yeah. So I think like really thinking about praising effort, praising behaviors that's congruent with values, praising getting through hard things, like you're still praising your child, right? But you're not only focused on when things go well. You're also praising your child when they've had a temper tantrum and then they've been able to repair, or they've been able to come back and say sorry, or, you know, like all of these other things that we don't typically think about when we think about praising people's behaviors.
Thank you for your honesty.
Yeah.
When you told me that you broke that lamp.
Yes. Yes.
I am a chronic online person and also a consumer of lots of media, and including kid media. And like, this always makes me think of like Meet the Robinsons. When like he's like, I failed at this experiment. He's like, yeah, you failed spectacularly. It was great.
I love that. Yeah.
It just is,
Think of all the things you learned.
Yeah, think of all the things you learned from that. You know, and I definitely have used it. Yeah, you failed. It was great.
Yeah. Good failing.
Good failing at that.
Failing. Okay, and then the last thing is if you did do something ineffective or harmful or whatever, right? You face the music. You validate the emotions that come from that behavior in both yourself and other people, and then you change your behavior.
So don't kill 1,200 people again?
Don't kill 12. Try to do everything you can avoid to kill 1,200 people, but we're missing some information.
I know, we're missing a lot of information. But she hasn't killed 1,200 people again.
She hasn't since.
She has not since.
Okay, do those make sense?
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
do, and that's actually a really good place to stop for today. If you made it all the way to the end, yay! Good job making it all the way to the end. Effort.
A for effort.
Thank you for coming to our book club. All of the fun stuff that we do is on our Patreon, and, you know, check us out, like and subscribe.
Next month, we'll be reading Fable for the End of the World by Ava Reed. It's another dystopian novel. It's very good. It's very different from Heir. It's also a whole lot shorter, so yay for those of us who can't get through books. But we're going to continue talking about Heir next week. So join us as we discuss, I think, complicated grief.
Yeah.
Yay.
Thank you all so much. Bye.
Bye.
Listen, wait until you start going.
Yeah, I'm recording. Should I stop?
No, go. I'm telling her to stop. No, you're fine.
Just do it on.
Yeah. on the
You're
curve.
actually-
I'm like dead on center.
We're limited with what we can do.
But
for the-
we're
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's fine with me. I'm just
Can
saying.
you flip that over and let me see myself real quick?
Yeah.
I've never
so
done that.
good.
Yeah.
I loved our moonshine shot.
Wasn't it so cute? I looked at the
Cute.
wide shot and I was like, actually this one's better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I made sure I got you like,
So good.
but if you don't like it, I'm happy to like take it off you so you can.
No, I thought
Excellent shot.
actually, yeah, I like this angle.
Cool.